So I kind of figured antelope would be in there. I talked to a couple locals, and they were like, "Yeah, you'll have enough antelope up there, and you'll see some." So I was pretty hopeful. So yeah, that first morning that we were out there, like as soon as it starts getting light, my dad's like, "Hey, I found you some antelope." And so this he was looking like I looked at as a crow flies, it was 2.5 miles, and there was 7 antelope total, and then one really nice buck.
So did he find
And
them with like a spotting scope from two and
yeah,
a half miles away?
uh-huh.
Wow, that's
And
actually not that
yeah,
easy to
it was
pull
pretty
off. Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty cool. And you could tell that it was a nice antelope. You couldn't really tell like how big it was, but I wasn't gonna be picky.
Yeah.
And but it was so it had I think it had like 6 or 7 does with it.
Okay.
So it was kind of gonna be a tough one. And then we were watching them for a bit because they were kind of grazing around. And then a little bit closer, we found a couple other groups of more antelope. Um, a few bucks that were quite a bit smaller than this one, but I was like I said, I'm not going to be picky. But
Right.
they were all kind of grazing around, and some of the does that were out there, the 2.5 miles, they started bedding down, and I'm like, well, we might as well go after these, and if that doesn't work out, we got a couple backup plans with these smaller antelope.
Hmm.
So my dad was on the spotter, and me and my little brother, we took off. We kind of had a game plan, and we took off toward them. We come up over one ridge, and it was like wide open. They could see us the whole time. So we're like, oh, we got to do something different. So we ended up hiking all the way around the mountain, and then going to pop up behind them. And it was a good little hike. I mean, at that point, I was like, yeah, this ain't gonna be a super easy hunt. Not like what I was expecting, but
Yeah.
so we hiked up and around, and we like pop over this first ridge where we thought they were, and we ended up being like 3 ridges behind. Everything was so different on the backside of the mountain. So my dad was still on the spotter, and we could kind of see him clear down there on the road, and he was like, "Oh no, you got to come up another ridge." So we went down and over to the next ridge, and then he's like, "Oh no, you got to come over one more." Yeah. So, but by that point, they were all bedded down, and so
Okay.
he's like, "Hey, it's bedded down if you can get to it." So we come up over the ridge that they're on, and my dad's like, "Oh yeah, they're right there." He's like, "You're right over the top of him," and there was pretty good rolling hills, and so I knew it was going to be tough, because I knew that we'd be getting close.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, the antelope might see us before we see it. But so I'm kind of creeping up over the top, and my dad's telling my little brother, he's like, he's right over the top of it. He's probably 80 yards away, and I still couldn't see it. It was
Right.
just below the hill, and so I kind of keep going up, and then I can see it, and I couldn't tell if it was bedded down. There was quite a bit of like little ryegrass, like two
Yeah.
foot tall ryegrass. And so I couldn't tell if it was bedded down or not. I figured it probably was, and it was sitting broadside, looking away from me, and it was close. At that point it was like 60 yards, and I'm like, oh man.
Oh yeah.
So then I'm like, well, we had this perfect stock. I'm like, oh man. So I had no good shot. It was too thick to lay down and shoot,
Yeah.
and so there was a little sage bush just ahead of me. So I kind of get behind it so the antelope can't see me, and I start going a little bit toward the sagebrush, and then the antelope stands up, and it was sitting broadside, just looking right at me, and it was like it had to have been 50 to 60 yards for sure. And I just stood up and I cocked the hammer back and just pulled the trigger, and it just dumped it. And
Really?
yeah,
You stood fully up, like just stood
so
all the
yeah,
way up.
yeah, yeah, standing up.
Oh
And
my
I
gosh.
had
You probably had like a second.
yeah, for sure. That's all I could do. Like I didn't even have time to think about it. As soon as it stood up, I just stood up, and
Were you like were you crawling? Were you like low hunch walking or like what were you?
yeah, I was low hunched walking for a bit, and I think
Okay.
Once I had seen it and was going behind that sagebrush, I think I was crawling a little bit, but yeah. So it stood up, and after I shot it, I remember looking around to see like where it had ran off to,
Yeah,
and
because
I
of the
can,
smoke.
uh-huh,
Yeah. By the
and
time the smoke clears, it was on
yeah,
the ground, but
it
you're
was just
seeing
laying
like
there.
6 antelope run away, and you're trying to figure out which
Yeah.
one's your buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I see it. Yep. And my little brother, he was right behind me, and I seen it laying there right there, and
Okay.
I was like, dude, how did that work out? So it was so crazy. So we went down there, and yeah, it was the first time I'd laid hands on an antelope, and it was pretty awesome. It was cool.